Investigation: How Redeemed Church officials allegedly duped members of millions in housing scheme. Investigation: How Redeemed Church officials allegedly duped members of millions in housing scheme. Picture of Untarred Road in the estate. When Oluyemi Ojudu, a civil servant, registered for a housing scheme initiated by a parish in one of Nigeria's largest Pentecostal churches, the Redeemed Christian Church of God, RCCG, in Abuja, he thought it was the beginning of the end of paying exorbitant rent to landlords. It is the desire of everybody to be landowners. It is a dream of everyone in Abuja to have a place they can call their own and stop paying rent as tenants to landlords, he told Premium Times. Land and other properties in Abuja are perhaps the costliest in the country. Many workers, desirous of owning properties in the city or surrounding neighborhoods, often take part in housing schemes which allow them to make payments in installments over a period of time. In 2009, the Excellent Men Fellowship, EMF, a group in the Resurrection Chapel parish of the RCCG, Lugby, Abuja where Mr. Ojudu lived, announced it was starting its own property acquisition scheme for married men in the church. The scheme was also thrown open to members of the RCCG from other parishes as long as they are given letters of introduction from their pastors. Ordinarily, Mr. Ojudu, who worshipped at another RCCG parish in the Gwarimpa area of Abuja, would have hesitated before subscribing to such property scheme due to the frequency at which people were being duped. But this was one his church was organizing. The church couldn't possibly defraud its members, he thought. The scheme was a sweet deal. A 600 square meter, SQM, plot of land was valued at N1.5 million. Each subscriber was expected to pay an initial deposit of N250,000 while remaining payment was spread over 2 years. Subscribers who pay up to N900,000 would have their plot allotted to them. Apart from the N1.5 million for the land, beneficiaries were also expected to pay an additional N500,000 for infrastructural development in the estate after they might have started developing the plot allotted to them. Picture of Untarred Road in the estate. Mr. Ojudu said he made a contribution of N1,000,000 and was given a subscriber file with number 0744. Beneficiaries were told to pay the initial N250,000 deposit into a Redeemed Church account named RCCG RCEMHS Project, with number 042120106911, at the defunct Oceanic Bank, now Ecobank. A committee headed by the parish's presiding pastor, Bisi Akand, was tasked with making sure the scheme ran smoothly. Other members of the committee, according to investigations, were Mr. Akand's deputy, Adiola Johnson, a lawyer, Sunday Igbo, EMF president, Oluyemi Ojudu, an accountant, Cosmas Mbanyu, and an estate surveyor, Victor I. The committee came up with a plan to purchase hectares of land in Payakasa, a village on the outskirts of Abuja, and in Van Estate, Lugby, which was to be distributed into 600 SQM plots to beneficiaries. However, before the land was purchased, Mr. Akand was transferred to another parish and a new presiding pastor, Peter Imniazin, took over from him. The plots of land were eventually purchased during Mr. Imniazin's tenure. However, before the land was shared among the subscribers of the scheme, Mr. Imniazin was himself transferred to another parish. Subscribers to the scheme who spoke to Premium Times said the first whiff of trouble was when Mr. Ojudu left but failed to hand over the management of the scheme to his successor. Remaining portion of the broken fence surrounding the estate. They became suspicious when they noticed that the committee's meetings had been moved from the church's premises in Lugby to the Payakassa side of the scheme. Scheme unravels, but not until some incredulous subscribers started asking why Mr. Ojudu was still in charge of the scheme instead of handing over to his successor. That they were informed that the scheme was not owned by the church but a private initiative started by some members of the church, who constituted the committee and passed it off as a church-owned scheme to attract subscribers. We were all concerned as to why Mr. Ojudu would want to hold on to the account of the scheme. It was then crisis and fraud began as we began to see discrepancies in what we were initially told and the way money was being spent, said a subscriber, Edbumbuad Frekin. After they realized that the facade of advertising the scheme as church-owned had fallen off, Messrs. Sobola, Adiola, who has also been transferred to another parish in Kuj, Udbo, and Ojudu promptly registered the scheme with the Corporate Affairs Commission, CAC, as Redeemer Excellent Men Housing Foundation without informing subscribers who had been led to believe it was initiated and managed by the church, Premium Times learned. But subscribers were in for more shock. The committee started modifying and reviewing the original terms of the scheme, such as asking subscribers to make additional payments. The original letters of offer given to subscribers were revoked and new ones issued, increasing the initial deposit subscribers are expected to make from N250, 002 and 500, 000. Furthermore, subscribers were given 21 days to complete the payment or forfeit their chances of being allotted a plot of land. In the new letters, the size of the plot of land was reduced from 600 SQM to 500 SQM. We never knew they had changed the name of the scheme. It was after the revoking and reissuance of letters for payment that we started suspecting the activities of the committee and accused them of hijacking the whole scheme, as they began to change the rules and regulations without consultations from the subscribers, Mr. Afrekin told Premium Times. Mr. Ojudu told Premium Times that despite meeting the reviewed conditions, he and many other subscribers were still not allotted land. I am not the only person who did not get any plot allocation in spite of fulfilling all the stipulated criteria. They first started sharing the plots they got from Van Estates, before they moved to the one here at Payakassa. Still, they have not given many people their plots. They are claiming that some people did not meet the deadline or rule set up. In that case, they should return some of these people's money to them, yet they are not willing to do so, he said angrily. He said by the time the committee started sharing the lands, he had gotten a new job and had moved to Ekiti State. He said when he learned that subscribers were being allotted plots again, he traveled to Abuja to ask for his but was told he now had to pay the commercial price of N4 million. Past Radiola said if I wanted to get a plot, I should come and purchase at the commercial price at which they were already selling for the general public. It was when I refused that I wouldn't pay the commercial price, he said. Undeveloped plot of land in the estate. Mr. Ojudu said he became disillusioned after the incident and stopped attending church activities after the authorities of the RCCG published a disclaimer saying they had nothing to do with the scheme. Anger against RCCG members who feel cheated in the scheme are unhappy that the church is not investigating the matter and that pastors behind the scandal are being promoted. They, RCCG authorities, have left us at the mercies of these unscrupulous people. It is very sad that one does businesses with people believing to be people of God and in the name of the church, and yet one cannot get a satisfactory result, Mr. African said. He said he is particularly angry that the church, whose letterheads were used to issue the offer letters, had been used to lure people into the scheme, but refused to fight for its members and call the officials to order. It is also pathetic that the people involved are still pastors in the church and the church is still promoting them and not investigating their deeds. I have stopped attending church because of this. It is a shame. They should give us what we paid for, he said. Another subscriber, who asked not to be identified so as not to be victimized, said he has left everything to God to judge. Unreconstructed drainage in the estate. He said he had joined because he thought there would be transparency and accountability, but he was taken aback by how matters turned out. Estate residents speak while it refused to allot land to some of the original subscribers of the scheme who said they met the requisite conditions. The committee is making profits selling same plots of land at the estate to members of the public at rates between N3.6 million and N4 million per plot. When Premium Times visited the estate in Payakasa, it was discovered that there were several unsold plots. It was also observed that there were several ongoing constructions of houses in the estate said to belong to those who bought land at the commercial rates from the committee. Interaction with some residents revealed that even subscribers who got land allotted to them are constantly at daggers drawn with members of the committee whom they accuse of making arbitrary financial demands. They allege that levies for infrastructural development have been on constant increase. One of them, Augustine Igby, with file number 0451, wondered what the committee did with all the money it got, as the state of facilities at the estate have remained poor. He also accused the committee of making millions of naira from mining of laterite found on the site of the estate and wondered what the money was used for. The problem escalated because we asked them to see what we have paid for in terms of infrastructural development, which they have been collecting the money from us. We needed to see what they have been using the money we have contributed so far, he said. They cannot expect us to balance any infrastructure fee if we cannot see what they have done with all the money generated. We are asking for accountability and transparency, he added. Mr. Igby also told Premium Times that when he confronted Mr. Igbo, the committee's lawyer, on the need to be accountable to the residents, the lawyer threatened to use fetish means to force him to do the bidding of the committee. Another resident, Mangaguch, said they are even uncertain of the future of their properties as rumors are rife that the Federal Capital Development Authority, FCDA, categorizes the estate as an illegal one. Said this fear is gaining grounds even though the estate management told them that it has spent N82 million for the regularization of the land title. Video footage of a meeting between residents and the estate's management committee seen by Premium Times. Mr. Radiola said the committee had spent N162 million on the estate. He claimed that N80 million went into the acquisition of the land, while N82 million was expended on perfecting the title. He also said that the committee spent N300 million on the provision of roads, boreholes and other facilities to ease construction work in the estate and to control erosion. The committee also said they bought a brand new Toyota Hilux truck for easy access to the project site. However, there was no evidence on the ground to support his claim of N300 million for infrastructure. Premium Times did not see any estate-constructed boreholes or gutters when it visited the estate. Drainages to control erosion were not constructed. The only means of erosion control were makeshift pits constructed by individual house owners. Even the main road into the estate was not tarred as well. Committee reacts when contacted. Mr. Radiola, still a Redeemed Church pastor, refused to be interviewed. He directed the reporter to Mr. Igbo, who now acts as the legal officer of the estate management. Mr. Igbo initially refused to talk to Premium Times. He asked for the identity of sources who revealed the scandal to Premium Times but was politely told that could not be divulged for ethical reasons. Angered, he threatened to sue this newspaper if it went ahead to publish a story on the matter without hearing from him. He later decided to talk after some of his colleagues that were present managed to convince him to seize the opportunity to tell his own side of the story. The lawyer said the estate was the brainchild of members of the committee and not the entire EMF of the church, contrary to what the original participants and church members said. He said the land rightfully belongs to Redeemer's Excellent Men Housing Foundation. He admitted that the scheme started in the church but the church was forced to pull out when trouble broke out between the promoters of the scheme and subscribers. When trouble started, the church waded in, because in truth, we started from the church, and the trouble started when the church was in charge. We emanated from the church but when they, aggrieved party, began to attack the church saying that the church should hand over the project to them, that was what made the church pull out. In fact, one of them went to court to file a case that the land should be handed over to them. But when the court asked them why should the project be handed over to them when they just came to buy a land, they ran away, he said. Denied that the original agreement for the size of the land was 600 SQM. They applied for 500 SQM and this was given to them. We are the ones dictating the pace. The agreement we signed with them is 500 SQM, and when they discovered it was no longer convenient for them, they had a choice to leave it. They have a complaint that the land given to them was not up to 500 SQM, they have a right to reject it and their money will be refunded, he said. Mr. Igbo's claim is, however, false. Premium Times is in possession of offer letters given to some of the original applicants. One such letter issued in February 2010 and signed by Mr. Sobola, as president of the EMF, and Mr. Radiola as chairman of the land's board. The beneficiaries were told the size of the land was 600 SQM and directed on which account to make the payment to. Speaking further, Mr. Igbo said the matter was in court and that those who are unhappy about how things have turned out should go tell the court. There is nothing fraudulent about what we are doing. Even the FCC went to the site and they saw nothing fraudulent about it. Many people are living there, but it is the people who want to hijack what they did not plan that are giving trouble. You did not pay, yet you want to take over allocation of land. That is not possible. We will return their money to them if they apply for a refund. Anybody who applies for a refund will be given. He claimed that participants who alleged fraud in the housing deal are not members of the RCCG. It was about 7 of us that started the planning of the scheme from inception. The lead pastor in the church was not even aware. It was later we involved the pastor. The pastor was not part of the initial conception because some pastors in the church are often busy so they do not have time to attend the meeting. The scheme got its name, excellent men of Redeemed, because we originated from the church. It is not that Redeemed, the church, gave us money to buy the land. We brought in professionals from the church to render necessary services for the scheme free of charge, as it is not a profit-making venture, since the mission is to support the church where men will be able to get land, and it is still a non-profit-making venture. We did all the planning, engineering, purchasing, everything. That is why I am wondering why they want to dictate to us how we want to run it, he said. RCCG housing scheme letter. Mr. Igbo said they agreed at inception that they were going to reserve about 15 to 20% of the land mass to be sold at an open market value to complement actual cost. If you have finished your payment and you do not want to move in, it is your problem, but one of them, who I'm sure is one of the troublemakers, finished building his house in 2011. But he did not pay the money for infrastructure, and that's why we have not allowed him to move in. It is either you have not finished building or you have finished building, and out of shame you cannot move in because you have not finished paying the infrastructure fee. But some of these people believe that we that set up the project are nobodies, he said.